China America Holdings reports financial results for the third quarter and first 9 months of 2011, ended September 30th, 2011. China American Holdings, a holding company operating in China through its wholly owned subsidiary Ziyang Ceramic Company Limited, announced today its financial results for the third quarter and first 9 months of 2011. The revenue reached $12 million in the third quarter of 2011, up 38.7% from the $8.7 million recorded in the third quarter of 2010. The operating income climbed to $3.7 million, up 36.5% from the $2.7 million recorded in the third quarter of 2010. The net income for the third quarter of 2011 reached $3.1 million, up 42.3% from net income of $2.2 million in the third quarter of 2010. Net revenues reached $12 million in the third quarter of 2011, up 38.7% from net revenues of $8.7 million recorded in the third quarter of 2010, and 21.2% from the second quarter of 2011. Net revenues for the first 9 months of 2011 climbed to $29.4 million, up 28.3% from $22.9 million recorded in the same period in 2010. The increase in revenue was driven by a shift in sales mix toward our higher-priced premium polycrystalline porcelain floor tiles in 2011 as compared greater unit volume of our lower-priced porcelain floor tiles in 2010. The premium polycrystalline floor tile series, launched in the fourth quarter of 2010, is priced approximately 50% higher than our patterned polished porcelain floor tiles. Revenue in the third quarter of 2011 was also boosted by sales of our newest product series, interior porcelain wall tiles, which we launched in August of 2011. Gross profit in the third quarter of 2011 reached $4.4 million, up 39.8% from gross profit of $3.2 million in the third quarter of 2010. For the first 9 months of 2011, gross profit climbed to $10.6 million, up 25.7% from $8.4 million recorded in the same period in 2010. Gross profit margins for the third quarter were 37% and 36% for the first 9 months of 2011, and were consistent with the comparable 2010 periods. Our gross profit margins thus far in 2011 remains flat due to higher margins from sales of our polycrystalline floor tile series, being offset by increases in cost of sales due primarily to increases in costs for raw materials, wages and benefits for manufacturing employees, and fuel. Total operating expenses for the third quarter of 2011 were $774,000, up 58% from $491,000 in the third quarter of 2010. For the first 9 months of 2011, total operating expenses were $1.9 million, up 45% from the same period in 2010. Operating expenses as a percentage of sales revenue remained stable at approximately 6.4% for the quarter and 6.5% for the first 9 months of 2011, up from 5.7% in the comparable 2010 periods. The increase in operating expenses thus far in 2011 was primarily due to salary increases for sales and administrative employees, higher costs of welfare benefit programs due to higher inflation, as well as increases in research and development, and travel expenses related to the launch of our new interior porcelain wall tiles in the third quarter of 2011. Net income for the third quarter of 2011 was $3.1 million, up 42% from $2.2 million in the same period in 2010. Earnings per basic and diluted share were 1 cent in the third quarter of 2011 compared to 1 cent in the first quarter of 2010. For the first 9 months of 2011, net income increased by 25% to $7.1 million, with earnings per basic and diluted share of 2 cents, compared to net income of $5.7 million with earnings per basic and diluted share of 2 cents. As September 30th, 2011, cash was $5.8 million, up 20.6% from $4.9 million at December 31st, 2010. At September 30th, 2011, total shareholder equity increased to $17.9 million, up 34.3% compared to shareholder equity of $13.3 million at December 31st, 2010. Commenting on the third quarter, Mr. Lingbo Qi, CEO of China American Holdings, stated, "We are very pleased with the significant increase in our financial performance in the third quarter of 2011. Our higher-end tiles have been well received in the marketplace, and we are excited by the early sales results from our launch of interior wall tiles in the third quarter of 2011. We expect to see a progressive ramp-up in sales from this new product line in the coming quarters. We intend to step up our marketing efforts for our higher-end tiles we plan to brand to cater to more affluent consumers. We expect these efforts to drive our sales growth for the remainder of 2011 and beyond. We will also work diligently to control costs where possible to help us to continue on a track to deliver strong bottom line performance for the foreseeable future.